Check.
Mama, please.
But Papa.
एक शब्द सुनने को मन तरसे, एक शब्द सुनकर खुशियां बरसे।
यस, एक यस आपकी जिंदगी बदल देता है। आइए यस बैंक में, जहां हम समझते हैं यस का महत्व।
All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and this is among one of those sessions that starts dot on time. So now, let me introduce the session. First of all, this session, a full house right at the beginning. Pretty good. This session is called A Hate Story. Chandrasuta Dogra chats with our urban Sarpanch, Rajawat, on her book of honor killings, Manoj and Bubbly, A Hate Story. Samira Khan would be the moderator for this particular session. Let me take you through the entire session. We're going to have 1 hour of discussions, and post that we've let 15 minutes for question and answers. So if you have any, just hold it there, and we have the last 15 minutes for discussion. Before even I can let this mic go up to Samira Khan, let me introduce, first of all, the person who's written the book. Chandrasuta Dogra is a journalist and author who has worked for various national dailies and magazines for almost 2 decades now. She is presently the chief of Bureau of the Hindu newspaper at Chandigarh. She had reported extensively on politics, governance and conflict from the North Indian states of Punjab, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir. Her work extends from investigations, religion in politics, judicial accountability, defense matters and the environment, to social issues, particularly gender, feudal patriarchy and denial of women's right. Her first book, Manoj and Bubbly, A Hate Story, published by Penguin, is being translated into Hindi and Japanese. This is the first and the best person we are talking to, Chandrasuta Dogra. Give a big round of applause for her, ladies and gentlemen. And now it's an honor to have with us, I have a brief and actually I have a very big introduction about her, but I just limit it down to a little. We have with us Chandrasuta Dogra in conversation with Sarpanch Rajawat, who is the first women Sarpanch with an MBA in India, serving the village Soda in Rajasthan since 2010. As a head of the village council, Sarpanch Rajawat is working to develop Soda with the support of the government, the corporate sector, NGOs and individuals. Her focus is on addressing environmental, social and economic challenges in the village, and she has invited global agencies to help meet the needs of the villagers, including providing safe drinking water and equal access to education for girls in that particular place. And such a great cause deserves a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on to the moderator for this particular session, we have with us Samira Khan. She is a Mumbai-based independent journalist, researcher and a co-author of the critically acclaimed book, Why Loiter? Women and Risks on Mumbai Streets, which examines women's access to public space. A former assistant editor with the Times of India, she teaches journalism at the School for Media and Cultural Studies at the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. With that, it's good enough for me to say the hour begins now. And yet again, if we have any questions, just hold it to yourself. Right after this hour is done, we'd come down to you for the question. So Samira, it's over to you. Please come up. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I hope this session is as expected, the special one. It should be the same one. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello and welcome everybody to what we hope will be very interesting and stimulating discussion on Chandrasuta Dogra's book, Manoj and Bubbly, A Hate Story, and also on the wider issues of honor killings and Khap Panchayats. You know, when brutal violence, including murder, is inflicted by intimate family members on young people of their family because they broke unspoken rules and made different choices, this kind of violence is defended on the grounds of family honor, community honor, or caste honor. It's a sign that much is wrong with our society, community, and country. And it's a time that we need to now speak up, and a need to demand change. And I'm happy to welcome Chandrasudha Dogra here and Sarpanch Rajawat. Before we start asking the author questions which we're going to pose her, I'd like her to introduce her book and set the context for the discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you, Samira. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm grateful to the organizers of the TOI Literary Festival and Bachchi Karkaria in particular for inviting me to talk about my book, Manoj and Bubbly, A Hate Story. For the many people who ask me if my book is about Bunty and Bubbly, the filmy characters, I tell them that while the film is a love story, my book begins where love ended. It was put to death, and hate took charge of the plot. But this is not fiction. Manoj and Bubbly is the true account of an honor killing and its aftermath that took place in 2007 in Haryana. The case is important because it became a landmark when in 2010 a Karnal court sentenced 5 people to death and 2 others to life imprisonment for killing the young couple. Bubbly's own brother pushed a vial of poison deep into her throat as she struggled, and Manoj was strangled to death and dragged behind a car till his bloodied body, along with Bubbly's, were thrown into an irrigation canal. It is the first time any court in the country had convicted anyone for an honor killing. This because firstly, such cases rarely reach the court due to the social pressures that force the aggrieved families to compromise and accept what happened to them. And if a family does indeed summon the courage to register a case with the police, the investigation of such matters is so tardy that they generally fall apart in court. The Manoj and Bubbly saga is a story worth telling, not just because it is a case that has managed to overcome all these difficulties, but quite remarkably, the feat was accomplished by 2 poor and seemingly helpless women. The illiterate mother of Manoj, Chandrapati, and his sister Seema, who was just a college student at that time. These 2 gutsy women defied social ostracism. Their entire village socially boycotted them for daring to register an FIR, death threats, and even bribes to prevent them from taking the case to its logical conclusion. But as if a divine conspiracy were at work, they were aided in their efforts by a group of intrepid women working quite independent of each other. This includes the woman judge who convicted and sentenced to death 5 of the killers and awarded life imprisonment. This lady understood the full implications of the wrath that she had unleashed against herself from the rural society that nourishes such crimes only after she delivered the judgment. The courtroom erupted in anger, and the police had a tough time trying to contain the hordes of men supporting the killers from attacking the judge. For days, she lived with threats and had to be provided police security, just as Chandrapati and Seema also had to be given similar police protection. More than 3 years after the killers of Manoj and Bubbly were sentenced and put in jail, Chandrapati and Seema still live in terror and have round-the-clock police protection provided to them by a court order. Many in their native village of Karoda in Kaithal district of Haryana, where it all took place, have still not forgiven them for daring to challenge the social order. Because in large parts of Haryana, Punjab and Western UP, breaking ancient taboos that govern marriage and kinship rules is punishable by death. It's done in the name of honor, but as we can see, there is more dishonor involved in such crimes in perpetuating this archaic social practice in modern times. Manoj and Bubbly were done to death for marrying into the same gotra or subcaste. Both were Banwalas from the same village, which in the eyes of the powerful Khap Panchayats or the caste councils made them brother and sister. Because marriage taboos prohibit marital alliances not only between people from the same gotra, but also between boys and girls in the same village, even if they may be from different gotras or subcastes, between people of neighboring villages, and any gotra or subcaste that is found in their own village. Now, this can translate into bizarre situations. For instance, If a boy or a girl meet in, say, Gurgaon and are working there, and they decide to get married, they may be from different castes. Their villages might be miles apart, but just because both their subcastes are found in a particular village, for instance, the girl's village has, the girl might be a Huda and the boy might be a Daya, and both the Huda and the Daya communities, the castes are found in their native village. So then the Khap Panchayats decree that, well, they're brothers and sisters, so they cannot marry. And the guardians of these social taboos can go to extreme lengths to hound the couple even outside the boundaries of the village and the state. In Manoj and Babli, in a hate story, besides documenting the Manoj and Babli case, I have also tried to explore the politics behind this growing trend of honor killings in North India. As most of you would be aware and would have seen and probably read every other day in the newspapers, there's a case, and you keep hearing of bizarre kind of things that a lawfully married couple has been forced to tie a rakhi on, the wife is asked to tie a rakhi on her husband's, or sometimes the child is taken away, and crazy kind of things. Vote bank politics has actually given a new lease of life to the Khaps and discourages most political parties from speaking out against this heinous crime. Indeed, no politician in Punjab or Haryana ever speaks out whenever an honor crime takes place. There is one episode in the book that describes how at the height of the furor over the inability of the Haryana police to arrest the main conspirator in the killing of Manoj and Babli, the Haryana Chief Minister, Bhupinder Singh Hooda, attended a public function in Karoda, the native village where all this took place. But he did not visit the family of Manoj, which had lost 2 people, to even condole their deaths. That's the extent to which the political leadership is complicit. Even an educated and progressive leader like Naveen Jindal was found to be appeasing the all-powerful Khaps or caste councils that clandestinely encourage this practice. The standard response of the politicians is a bland, oh well, the law will take its course. But as I discovered while researching this book, the law is the first casualty because the police machinery, particularly at the lower level, is most complicit because most of them come from the same society as the Khap Panchayats or the other people in the village, and they subscribe to the same mindset. Though most people I have come across see this story as a face-off between those who abide by the law and the upholders of archaic traditions that clash with it, I actually think that it's more about the power of the meek. This is one of the many unseen David versus Goliath battles in our societies which help in the evolution of these societies into more liberal and happy spaces for the inhabitants. I'd just like to read one passage from the book here. As I told you all that these people defied social ostracism. Now what actually does social ostracism amount to? Is it just that the people will not talk to them for a few days or not share their food or anything? But this is this is a funeral scene. The dead bodies of Manoj and Babli have been discovered and cremated as unclaimed bodies by the police in another town because the canal where they were thrown, the water took the bodies, say, about 100 kilometers away, and the police of that district did not connect with the disappearances here and cremated those bodies as unclaimed. And a group of NGO women then retrieved the ashes and brought them to the house of this family. And I'll just read it. In Karoda, the family began preparing for the funeral. Chandrapati, who is the mother of the boy Manoj, went to the house of the village potter to buy an asti kalash, the traditional pot of baked mud to hold the ashes. It did not strike anyone in the house that the boycott would extend even to funeral preparations. The potter was unloading a fresh lot of clay from the buffalo cart in his courtyard when she walked in. He stopped her before she could reach his workplace. "Go away, we are not allowed to talk to you," he shouted. "You know very well that my son has died. I beg of you to give me 2 asti kalash to carry his ashes. I will always remember your favor," said Chandrapati as she wiped a tear with the corner of her dupatta. But the potter had turned his face. "How many Diwali diyas and water pots I have bought from this potter in better times. Just look at him now. He turns me away, she thought, as she moved on unhappily. Back home, Seema was hauling up, Seema is the sister of Manoj. Back home, Seema was hauling up her last reserves, called up a college friend who lived in Pai, a small town some 7 kilometers away, to see if she could get some help, to see if her friend could help her get the pots. Her friend reassured her that she would arrange for them. Seema then caught the first bus for Pai at 5 the next morning to buy the Asti Kalash and other items required for the funeral ceremony. When she returned, the whole village knew that the family had somehow managed to procure the pots and watched as she and Vinod, her younger brother, walked to their house. Not a soul stepped out of their door to assist them or offer condolences. Later, when the small funeral procession wound its way through the narrow lanes, Ompati came to the first floor window. Ompati is the mother of Babli, the girl who was also done to death. Ompati came to the first floor window as they passed her house and paid a silent homage to her dead daughter. She had a veil over her face and no one saw her tears. Seema and Narinder were holding the pots tied with a red cotton cloth, and they were followed by Mahavir and his wife, Vinod, and 2 of Narinder's friends from the locality. The procession headed towards the Cub, an ancient pond on the outskirts of Karoda, where funeral ashes from several villages around have been immersed for centuries. The Cub is said to be blessed with the divinity of 5 Tirthas, held sacred by the Hindus. Legends connected to the Bhagavad Puran and villagers believe that in the hoary past, it had steps of gold. Their neighbors and acquaintances stood silently in their doorways, watching them walk past. Men, women and children from other localities gathered in the streets, but none dared to walk a step along with them. There was no chanting of mantras because the Pandit had also refused to conduct the rituals. It was a bizarre spectacle, unlike any funeral ceremony in living memory across Haryana. At the Cub, the small group of mourners stood on one side of the pond as they immersed the ashes. On the opposite side was gathered almost the whole village, silent and detached purveyors of the misery of this wretched and desolate family. So that really is what social ostracism boils down to, the trauma that it inflicts on the family, and there was much more. For instance, people refused to sell them milk or rations, or even take them. The auto drivers and the bus drivers, the private buses, were stopped from taking them to the nearest town where they had to go for their work or to study, and you need to keep going. So they were completely isolated. It was only later when the police machinery pushed by the media and the social, not the social pressure I would say, but mainly public pressure from when it came in the media from towns and the urban population, and everyone began to, there was a furor. Then somewhat it abated, but to a large extent it's still there.
I want to compliment Chandra for writing a very readable book. It's a book, while it's a very strong reportage, it has a narrative flow and structure, and the story is told in an extremely compelling way. I'm going to start off asking you that there have been several cases, obviously, of honor killings in many of the North Indian states, but why was this story more compelling to you? It's on. Sorry. Why the story of Manoj Babli in particular?
Actually, I had been reporting on honor killings for quite some time, and for some reason this particular case escaped my notice because I was in other parts, in other states doing other stories. So Penguin approached me to do a book on honor killings, and this was about the time when their judgment had come out, and I was feeling that I should have been around in Haryana to cover this. So then when I actually looked at this case, I realized that this whole malaise of honor killings I can explore through this one case, because it had gone on to become a landmark judgment. It was the first time ever that people were convicted, and that too given a death sentence. That's how I contacted Seema and Chandrapati and decided to document this case.
Okay. The Hindu Marriage Act recognizes Sagotra marriages. So, as per the law of India, the marriage of Manoj Babri was legal. But we know that in many of these cases, the CUPs don't recognize Sagotra marriages. So, I'm going to provocatively ask you, and they defended in the name of tradition and sort of custom. So, the provocative question is, so what's wrong with upholding customs?
Yeah, this is something actually a lot of people ask me, and once an IS officer came and asked me what's wrong. IS officer from Haryana got up and asked me what's wrong in upholding their customs. I just have one answer which I think should, there's nothing wrong really. Customs are the lifeblood, they define our societies. But you cannot justify murder in the name of upholding your customs. No custom can go against the law of the land, and which is actually what is happening over here. You cannot marry into your own gotras, or like in Parsis here they say, oh well, do marry into the Parsi community and do not marry outside. This whole thing about gotra is actually to prevent inbreeding. So it may make sense scientifically that you have a healthy line of your progeny would be healthier, and